Hey everyone, thank you for watching. Today's video is going to be a chatty get ready with me. I'm going to be answering some of your questions on the recent Creators and Friends trip that I helped plan, host, create with my friend Cymbre for the community over here. So I did a video recently on kind of talking a little bit about Creators and Friends, why I wanted to plan it, how Cymbre and I were able to go about it. I also did a little haul in there, but then I asked for some of your questions and you have some good ones. So I got some tea to share in this video. The tea is hot. Oh, the tea is still hot. Welcome. Before we jump in, I usually start my videos with an outfit of the day, but typically in my get ready with me videos, I'm just in like what I actually usually get ready in. So I have on some shorts from Target and then also this t-shirt here from Amazon. So I'm just going to clip my hair back. I am going to be using products from our brand sponsors on the trip, and I'll be getting more into that as well with some of your questions. So I will link everything in my description box, but I am excited because in this video, I am trying Unearthly Cosmetics for the first time. Super excited about that. They sent along an eyeshadow palette for the trip. I have in here, I'm gonna be using all of the BK Beauty brushes. I have Colourpop, Sigma, Ofra, maybe that's everybody. All right, so I have you zoomed in. So like I said, I already applied my sunscreen. I'm gonna come in with my primer. This is from e.l.f., their Power Grip with niacinamide. And like I said, I posted a video prior talking all about the event, and I'll just run through it really quickly. If you didn't see that video, I know it was a longer one as well. But basically last year, my friend Cymbre and I, she is CymbreThinks on Instagram. I will have her linked in my description box. We decided that we wanted to come together and put our love for event planning and also our love for this community and our love for other creators together and do something that we didn't feel was being done in the space. We see a lot of brand trips happening, but we wanted to create something that was focused more on the creators. Not that we think anything is wrong with brand trips, and I totally understand them. I get what they're about. They're fun to watch people go on them, different things like that. But brand trips are, you know, the sole focus of them is the brands, the products that they're putting out, and we wanted to create something on the flip side. What could we do for creators and especially have this like community feel, make connections between people? Because what I have said in my videos for so long, a lot of this career is being by yourself, and we don't have like monthly staff meetings, brainstorm sessions, think tanks with one another, because a lot of times we're separated by distance and all of that. We don't have like potlucks like I loved so much when I worked in traditional employment, because I always brought the paper plates and napkins and not food. We don't have holiday parties, like things like that. So it was like, what can we do that we could start to bring creators together and hopefully just create something new in this space? And that is how we came up with the Creators and Friends retreat, and was kind of our goal behind it. So Colourpop was another one of our sponsors. They came on and they actually did a masterclass, and so they brought in a Charleston makeup artist and they did a masterclass, and we had some Colourpop products sent over. So I'm going to use their Pretty Fresh Hydrating Foundation and also the Hyaluronic Creamy Concealer. All of the brushes that I'm going to be using are from BK Beauty. They were our main sponsor, so we worked with Lisa J Makeup and the BK Beauty team really closely throughout the last several months. A lot of Zoom meetings, a lot of calls, a lot of brainstorming with them, a lot of just really fun conversations with the team. And I thought it was really cool to be able to work with BK Beauty because they are creator founded as well. And you know, a women-owned business, and it felt like a really right fit, and BK Beauty came on in such a big way, and it was just really exciting to work with them. It was exciting to have Colourpop come on. I'm going to use the shade Medium 83C. We'll see how I do. It's quite warm in Las Vegas, so I'm starting to definitely get a tan, and I was just outside walking with Aries not too long ago. She is sleeping under my desk. That's kind of like her new spot. My dog was diagnosed with cancer recently, and she is in chemotherapy, and she's on some medications, and I actually asked our oncologist if there's like a reason why I feel like she's getting much warmer recently. Like normally she sleeps under the covers, and she hasn't done that. Normally she lays like outside in the sun, and she lays like under the covered deck, and she likes to be like in the chair, the bench, the couch, but now she lays on the floor quite a bit more, and I feel like because it's cooler. And the oncologist said it's actually her like steroid that she's on that could be causing that. So far I haven't seen any like causes for concerns, like excessive panting, like anything like that. It's just like a small change. Like if she was a dog that normally laid on the floor, I wouldn't think anything differently, but normally she's like sitting with me or she's on my chair, so I'm like, I'm using the BK Beauty 109 brush to apply this foundation. I think that this will be a pretty good match for me. But the Creators and Friends trip took place in Charleston, South Carolina. So when Cymbre and I got the idea to do this, we were just sending out a bunch of surveys to our friends who we wanted to invite along. And we asked, like one of the first questions we asked was, where do you want to go? And Charleston was the most voted on, which I have to say, I wasn't surprised in like a bad way. We had some more like, not exotic. We had like international choices on there too. But I guess Charleston is very like epic for girls trips, bachelorette parties and that sort of thing. So I was really excited because I'd never been to Charleston, and the more I looked into it, the more excited I became. They had good food, and we had a beach day at Folly Beach set up, and I love water, so I was super excited about that as well. But it took place at the beginning of May, and we had 20 creators a total that attended the first Creators and Friends event. Now I did not go myself, which might sound strange. Like I mentioned with my dog and her cancer diagnosis, that came literally 48 hours before I was supposed to leave. And I was told initially that Aries only had days. Like they were telling me in the yard to like make a decision, all these things. It was very overwhelming. And if you know me and you know my bond with my dog, I still have a hard time leaving even just to go to a dinner. So, and you know, so 48 hours, it was really hard for me to fathom getting on a plane and going literally across the country. So some of my commentary might sound a little bit strange, because when I was like, we had a beach day set up, it's like, no, they went to the beach. I just didn't happen to be there. Concealer, I'm gonna use the shade Light 33C. I think that this one will be an okay match for me. That's just a very quick little version of Creators and Friends in a nutshell, and then I'll jump into your questions because I feel like some more things that I would say will be answered with these questions. But the first one I saw was Debbie. She said, did you have a limit on how many creators you could invite? And yes, so we were going off of how many people we could sleep in the house that we found. We decided we wanted to do more of an Airbnb style and rent a house for this trip versus doing something like being in a hotel room. We thought it would just lend to the community feel a little bit more, and if we're all under one roof, there's more opportunities for people to be together, chat with each other, hang out with each other, versus a hotel can be a little bit more, not necessarily isolating, but can just be a little bit more individual, if you will. So that was one of our first goals when Cymbre and I came up with this idea, and then we were trying to decide where to go. We started looking at different rental options in Charleston, and we found this really beautiful home, and I thought that it was pretty unique because it was actually kind of divided into like 4 different, almost essentially like townhomes is how the girls were describing it. I was really sad that I wasn't able to go because I was so curious to see this house because I've just never really seen anything like it. But actually what you can do is you can rent out, there's 4 different suites. If you wanted to and you were coming with, you know, 4 or 5 girlfriends, you could just rent out suite A and someone else entirely could have suite B, but they have their own separate entrances. Each one's have their own bathrooms, their own kitchens. Like it's really like it's 4 individual little homes, townhomes this was, yet at the same time, if you wanted to, you could all come together. So some of the girls would have to, like it sounded like Suite A became kind of like the place where people would meet. I think that was the biggest one there. And so some people would have to walk like outside their townhome to get over to the Suite A, but it still made it so everyone was technically under one roof. It was easier to get to one another versus being in a hotel. And we did ask the group if they liked that, or if they, like, once everything was over, we sent out another survey. We're a big fan of surveys. But again, we're kind of doing this as a community. It's really not just Cymbre and I making the decisions. We're really relying on the creators coming along to like let us know what they want to do and how they felt about it and how we can improve and all of those things. So when we sent out the survey and asked, you know, did you like that setup? I mean, I think it was pretty much across the board that people said that is how they would prefer to do it. And even some said they would also prefer not to have it, how it was broken up in the 4 suites. They're like, we just want one big space. That just kind of depends on like what we can find and what's available and what works best for everybody. But that was kind of the consensus, is people would like to keep it the same of renting out one house or one rental space versus doing more of like a hotel option or like a resort where then we're all kind of separated, which I think is really cool, because I think that speaks to what we felt was missing in the community, was doing something that really connects creators and focuses on that community aspect. Because even things like, apart from brand trips, even things like a Generation Beauty or the Ipsy Days, those are still really focused on brands. You know, they have, if you've never been, they have booths with brands set up, and it's so great as creators to be able, like I was able to meet like brand owners that way, or social media teams for brands. So that's always so fantastic. I think the last couple of years when it was like Ipsy or Ipsy Live, they started to have creator focused like little sessions that you could attend and go to, which was cool, but still the main focus of those are all still on the brands. And Cymbre and I were just really focused on the flip side of this, because this is really an event that was for creators by creators, Cymbre and myself. And we just wanted to do something that we thought was a little bit different in the space again. To answer the question, that is how we were able to decide on the number of attendees, is how many people we could fit into the house, how many people it could sleep. It's going to be the same thing. We are planning our second trip, which is in New Orleans in April of 2024, and it's kind of the same thing. We've already found a house. We know how many people it can sleep, so that is the number of attendees that we can have. I am just going to quickly, I sat with my Charlotte Tilbury powder. I'm going to use my Lawless powder, but this brush from BK Beauty, this is the 105. This brush I just love for setting my makeup, and when I was loving my Dior powder, I would always get so many questions of what brush I use with my Dior powder, and it's always the BK Beauty 105, but now my Lawless Beauty powder I think is so phenomenal, and it's still the BK Beauty 105. So this brush is just great. I do have a code with BK Beauty. It's a non-affiliate code, so it just gets you a discount. That is Samantha10 for 10%. I'm just gonna use my Lawless brow pencil to fill in my brows quickly here. A few questions here from Goblin Girl Beauty. How much do you think it cost per creator approximately? So I'm not sure. It's hard to say, because everyone did have to pay for their own transportation. So again, I kind of covered this a little bit in that creators and friends focus video as well. But when Cymbre and I were first planning this, we were really just thinking like a casual girls trip. Like, we just wanted to do something. And then the more we talked to each other and the more we realized how much we both enjoy you know, putting events on, and kind of to me it's almost like a puzzle of like how to fit everything in. It's part of what I went to college for. I used to work in event hospitality for a hospital. I used to work for a hospital as well, but I worked in event planning at a hotel. So it was something that we took on, again, just for fun, in addition to our careers. Like, Cymbre also works full-time in tech. I'm a full-time influencer. I'm also a brand owner and an author. And so we were like, oh, let's just try to put like a girls trip together with our friends. You know, we found the house and everything, and we had all of the creators pay me for their portion of the house. You know, we just said, do you want to do this? And here's the time, and here's the house, and Venmo the money, and cool. And then as Cymbre and I thought about it more, we thought, can we make this a bigger thing? And can we start to bring on brands that could maybe sponsor in a way where maybe the girls wouldn't have to pay for the house or for every single meal, or maybe we could do some activities for them. So then our brains started going off that route of like, can we make this even bigger than just our original, let's just do a girls trip and and see what happens. So that is when BK Beauty came on as our main sponsor, and with their participation in Creators and Friends, I was able to refund all of the creators what they had sent me for the house. So they still paid their own transportation, whether they drove, whether they flew to Charleston. They did still have to cover their own expenses. So that's gonna look different for if someone lives closer or if someone lives farther away. Like, I think my flights from Las Vegas were like $600, whereas someone who lives a little bit closer was probably, you know, $200 or something like that. We did also have some people that were able to drive in. So, I mean, honestly, with the price of gas, I don't know if that's cheaper or not, but so that one is hard to say. But then we were also able to have some things that were included as well. Like we had like chair and umbrella rentals at Folly Beach. We had a few of the dinners that were covered. We also had a sponsored brunch at the house. Unearthly Cosmetics sponsored a brush, and they had some of their products out during that time. A few of the meals were also able to be covered, which was really exciting because not, like I said in my first video too, not everyone can afford this, and there was some people that we invited initially that, you know, weren't able to make it work with their budget, which absolutely makes sense. And I mentioned that especially when I was, you know, a smaller creator or not doing this full time, I wasn't able to afford, I remember the first time I got invited to a Generation Beauty, and like it was the Ipsy team that reached out and they said, you know, oh, we would love if you came to this event. And I was like so excited. It's so funny that I can remember this so clearly. I was driving home from a Mexican restaurant with my ex-husband, and I started like screaming in the truck, and I was like, I got invited to this event. This could be so huge for me, and I could meet people and da-da-da. And then I realized they were literally just saying like, hey, do you want to come? Buy your ticket. Like, they weren't even giving me a ticket, okay? So I could not afford a ticket to go, and it was like a 2-day event, so like it was pretty pricey for the ticket. And I also couldn't afford to also then fly and pay for accommodations in New York City. So I was so excited, and then I was so crushed when I realized financially I was not going to be able to make it work. So not everyone was able to come along, and that is something for when we do the next ones. We are hoping to be able to have an idea of sponsorships in place a little bit sooner, so we can maybe give some budgeting ideas to the creators that come along to see if they are able to do it. But again, when we were first coming at it, we were just like, everyone's paying their own way. That's all. Like, Cymbre and I aren't funding this trip for you. Like, we can't do that. That was just kind of the game plan, and we were able to go from there. And it was really exciting though, because I felt like we were able to make it more of an experience for everybody, more of like, I don't know, just something really memorable and special. Like when everyone walked in and we had this whole setup with BK Beauty with these beautiful mugs that have our names on them with like the BK Beauty logo on the back here, and they had towels that were personalized, and you know, supplies from the goodie bag, and it was just set up really pretty. Like, you probably have seen the brand trips that happen and the like elaborate setups that people walk into, and the, you know, amazing locations that they're going to, and all of those things. It's not like we were trying to mimic something like that, but we were still trying to give a special experience. And so that's why we are really grateful for the brands that came on, because they allowed us to do that. I know there's a question that's coming up about like, how did Cymbre and I fund this, and did we fundraise or did we put our own money towards it? And that's kind of the thing. Like I said, like everyone was paying their own way originally, and then because we were able to find sponsors, we were able to lessen the financial burden of, you have to pay for your transportation, you have to pay for your house, you have to pay for all of your food, and we were able to do some little extra goodies. And it kind of felt like a special thing to be able to do for creators who, like, I've never been on like a brand trip. I've been to like some launch parties, which have been amazing and so fun. I remember getting to meet Kathleen Lights at one of them, and I was so excited about that. And I remember going to the one with Sigma Beauty, and just everything was set up so beautifully, and like their party and the decor, and meeting their social media team, and going out with the founder Simone for dinner was like, that's experiences that I will never forget. But like, I've never been tripping with Tarte. I probably never will be. And that's totally fine. I've never been to Dubai or the whatever the really expensive one was in Utah that Benefit took their creators to. Like, again, all things that are so incredible, and those opportunities are so incredible. And I don't know, I feel like I'm having a hard time of what to say, because it's not that I want to say that I feel like not all these creators get love from brands, because they definitely do, and there's so many good brands, especially all the ones we worked with this first time. But sometimes this career has its own unique set of challenges, and it's hard because you don't want to come on camera and complain or feel sad or like feel bad for yourself or like all of these other things. But there are some things that can be a little bit hard, and I know sometimes I hear from other creators of not having a lot of opportunities or feeling like they'll never get to this level or that level or what it may be. And this was a trip that wasn't about numbers. It wasn't even about like your engagement. It was just really, how do we start to bring the community together where the focus is on the creators? That's what we were trying to achieve. But again, to answer your question, I'm not sure how much it would cost for everybody, because those travel costs are going to look different for everyone. And then also things like breakfasts weren't included, so I know some girls brought their own snacks and things like that, so they had them at the house. Some went out to eat or went out to get coffee or went to grab lunch and those sort of things. But hopefully with the help of the sponsors that we were able to bring in, hopefully it wasn't too much of a financial burden and everyone could just enjoy themselves and enjoy the company of the other creators. For my bronzer, I'm just using my Life's a Draft palette. This is my collab palette with Over Cosmetics, and this was included in our goodie bag that we had. One of my favorite bronzer brushes is from BK Beauty, and this one is the 103. For my blush, I originally planned to use the new Sigma cream blushes, because again, I just did a video talking about all my current favorites, and I do mention the cream blushes, but I don't have a damp sponge or even any of like my duo fiber brushes in front of me. I grabbed out the BK Beauty Angie Hot and Flashy A507 for blush, so I'm just going to use one of the regular powder blushes from Sigma. This one is in Berry Love. I am also an affiliate with Sigma. I do have an affiliate code with them, which is Samantha on the website. So another question from her was, how did you decide on a location? So I mentioned that we sent out the survey, and that was how Charleston was not necessarily voted upon, but when we looked at everything, we were like, oh, okay, Charleston. Sounds great. Another question is, how would you start something like this if you were a teeny tiny creator? If you are meaning like how to actually start planning it, like if you wanted to plan one for yourselves, I guess I'm trying to think of, you know, I mean, Cymbre and I were doing this together. So first we kind of had that idea of like, let's just try it. And then the next thing we did was we started contacting our friends and was like, do you even want to do this? Because, you know, 20 women under one roof can seem pretty overwhelming, and especially people who don't necessarily know each other. Like, in a sense, I think a lot of us feel like we know each other because we watch videos online or we talk on platforms like Marco Polo, but a lot of people who went have never actually met each other before, and that can be really overwhelming. And you know, I'm someone who's definitely more introverted, so I definitely had anxiety thinking about like, is this gonna get too overwhelming? Am I gonna be able to have time, especially as like a host, like am I gonna be able to have time to like step away and just breathe for a little bit? So again, everyone was taking a chance on this trip. Like Cymbre and I took a chance with planning it, and if it all went horribly wrong, like were we gonna be publicly shamed on the internet? The creators were taking a chance on putting up their own money and coming along on a trip and taking time off of work. You know, a lot of us are entrepreneurs as well, so taking off 3-4 days, that's a lot. Leaving families, providing your own transportation, they were all taking a risk. The brands were taking a risk. We had no contracts with any of the brands. No one was under any obligation to post anything. There was no deliverables. Everyone took a chance on everyone for this trip. And I think Cymbre and I are still just a little bit, like, I think we thought it was gonna go well, but when I say it went so well, and that was with me having to back out 2 days prior to leaving. I mean, and it still all went so well. And I felt like there was such a collaborative effort from everyone who was there to like help Cymbre and help in my absence. And everyone was so supportive of me. And I was afraid people were gonna judge me for not going. And You know, I literally couldn't get out of my bed. I couldn't get off the floor crying, holding on to my dog, wondering if she was going to make it through the night, you know? It would have been really, really hard for me to be like, girls trip. So everyone took a chance, everyone took a risk, and I'm just really pleased with how it came out. But we contacted our friends. We said, would you even want to do this? Once we heard back from enough people, because of course some women said no, either because of timing, because of cost. Some women were like, this just isn't my vibe, and that's totally fair and totally okay, totally understandable. But once we had a decent enough people, we were like, okay, where should we go? Then we started looking for the house, booked the house. And then we just kept going from there. So that was how we did it. Okay, I'm really excited to use this palette from Unearthly Cosmetics. So they brought on their Don't Be Jelly palette. And like I said, they hosted a brunch for everyone. So we brought in Callie's Hot Little Biscuits for brunch. And then Unearthly sent along some of their products, including the Don't Be Jelly palette, which I'm using today. Now, some of you might know I'm not the most colorful of wearers when it comes to makeup, but I have to say, okay, I like greens and I like purples. I think the purples are calling to me just like a smidgy bit more, like a smidgy bit. Like these two shades, I'm like, kind of really want to play with these. I'm really excited about this, and we were really thrilled that Unearthly came on. They are an indie brand. They were like, their founder Amanda was so amazing to work with. We actually just had our follow-up call with her recently to get her thoughts of like, how did you think it went? Because, you know, this is our first time trying everything. We're really big on feedback. What should we do differently? What really stood out to you that you liked? Did you feel like it was worth it? Would you want to do it again? You know, all of those questions we were asking. And I'm just really excited because I felt like I was seeing so many of the creators share and post about it, and I was just really excited to bring her on. I hope that we're able to work with more indie brands and, you know, creator funded brands and all of that. I think would be really special to do in the future for sure. But again, Unearthly took a big chance on us, and I hope, and I think I know from the meeting, that they were happy with it, which makes me very happy. But I'm first going to use the shade Sea Star, this purple one. I'm using the BK Beauty 212. And I'm just going to kind of like pat this on my eye because I have a feeling it's going to be pretty pigmented. And then also sweep into my crease. And you know, when we were talking to Amanda, she was saying how, she was like, I'm not sure how people will react because some of the creators on the trip, you know, we sent out the guest list and everything like that. She was like, they don't use a lot of color, and like we're a very colorful brand, and like the multi-chromes and dual chromes and all of that. You know, that's kind of me. I'm not the most colorful wearer, like I said, but I do love me some purples. I love me some greens, and sometimes it's just fun to play and do something different. I haven't been wearing the most amount of makeup recently. I think probably just because I like cry a lot still. So, you know, sometimes makeup is like, is there a point of this? But sometimes it's also just fun to sit and play and create and see what you can come up with. And this purple is super, super stunning. Her fourth question was, most importantly, how's Aries? Well, thank you for asking. That's really nice. Aries is she's doing okay. I did decide to do chemotherapy for her. I do have a video kind of talking over her situation as well, and I can link that one. It's just titled Grief on my channel. Because it's a really hard thing. I think I'm kind of struggling in a few different ways, because it almost feels like, especially after getting her diagnosis and coming home with her and not knowing how long I had and literally being told days, and from a Friday, I was told this on a Friday, and her chemo appointment was scheduled for that following Wednesday, and the doctor kept stressing if she makes it to Wednesday, if she can make it to that chemo appointment. And I was just like, it's weird because I feel like I went into a grieving process, but she's not gone. But that's like, I felt like for a solid week there, that's the only really way that I feel like I could describe the feeling was grief. And that's hard because I had to figure out how to snap out of that, because she is here, you know? I had to really try to flip my mindset into, I have to stop being so sad because she reads my emotions so closely that I was like, you have to be positive for your dog and make sure that she's in a happy environment and that she's not more stressed watching me be stressed. She's the one who has cancer. She's the one going through this. She's the one that has a tumor. Like, I got to get it together for her. So it was really such a weird thing because I felt like, you know, in this weird way, I was grieving my dog, and I think maybe it's also like grieving the future that I won't have with her. Obviously, I never assumed I was going to have my dog forever, but she is only 9, and I just really thought we would have at least a few more years together. So there was that, and then there's also the fear of the future. There's the fear of having to make that decision of making sure I'm making it at the right time. That's something I think about every day, and it's very scary, and I don't want to mess up. And it's really hard to, hi baby, do you want me to get your chair? I tried to zoom out a little bit so you could see her, but you know, she just immediately like wants to be by my side once I start getting upset. But I think another thing that's hard too is, you know, being single now and being alone is like, I'm the one that solely makes all of the decisions, and it's a lot, you know, if it feels like a lot, and I don't want to get it wrong. I think that there's like, when your animal has cancer, from a lot of people that I've talked to, a lot of you that I've talked to, there's also a lot of guilt of like, shouldn't I have caught it sooner? Like, what did I miss? And all of that. So I've just been going through like the gauntlet of emotions, both thinking about the past, the present, also the future. It's definitely been a lot, but she took to her first chemo appointment so good, had no side effects, and she's had straight good days. I mean, there was one day that I marked on my, because every single day I track all of her everything. What time she wakes up, literally how many times she pees, like when she eats, when she takes her medications, her energy levels, her mood, her vibe. I track everything, so there's no questions. I can always look at that. I can take it to the vet. I can take it to the oncologist. There's only one day since chemotherapy that I marked that I felt like it was a bad day, and I'm really grateful for that. Today she's taken me on 3 walks already. She woke me up at 6 o'clock promptly. She really enjoys still being outside, going for her walks, being in her routine. So as of right now, I think that she's doing really well, which I'm grateful for, because being told you have days and now going into, you know, it being 3 weeks, I'm just super relieved about that. And my biggest thing is that I just don't want her to be in pain, and I want her to have happy and good days. That's what I care about. So I'm gonna use the shade Jellyfish, and okay, she's gonna sleep in her chair, so I'll zoom you back in. I did want to say too that I really have had so many messages from so many of you come in asking how you can help. I've had a few people just donate to my email address anyways, even though I was saying I'm not really sure, like I don't know what to do, because honestly that thought never came to my mind when I was going through everything. I think really just I didn't have much thoughts besides like make sure my dog is okay. That was it. I didn't realize, and I feel silly for it, but I didn't realize how many people would want to help, and how many people love Aries, and how many people she has touched. You know, she's been in so many of my videos. If you followed me for a while, you know that she's really been through my side through so much, through mental health struggles, through financial hard times, moving, infertility, divorce. Then the 2 of us moved together from Iowa to Las Vegas. Like, she's been with me through all of my hard times. Like, I remember moving into this apartment, you know, 2 years ago, and just being so completely overwhelmed and not knowing what to do, and she was right there. And you know, a lot of days I was so sad, but I would get up because I got up for her. It's helped me so much, and you know, animals are so selfless in their love, and I would do anything for this dog. And the number of you that have asked to help has been, I'm just like Oh, and it took me a little bit because I'm not the best at asking for help, and I wouldn't have chose to take this journey with Aries if I couldn't do it alone. But to know that so many of you want to help her and want to help me not be alone really is, I think that's just what I keep coming back to, of how special that is. So it took me a little bit of time, but I do have, I will put it in the description box. I set up some accounts on like Zelle and Cash App for donations for her. I also started, a lot of you said to do an Amazon wish list, which I thought was a really good idea because there's a lot that goes into this more than just like the vet bills, but like, you know, her pill pockets, and I'm going through paper towels at like an extreme rate and you just little things like that. And I do use a company for her food. I get like fresh food made for her. It's like a delivery service that's local in Las Vegas. But I was also thinking, because she's eating more now and it's pretty expensive anyways, and I was like, I could maybe trade off weeks. Like I could make food at home and reading a book on like how I can make it myself to maybe save a little bit of money that way. But that involves like a food processor and, you know, like all these different things. I did start a GoFundMe, which I wasn't going to, because when I first started talking to people about doing something for her, a lot of people recommended not to do the GoFundMe because of like the fees that they take. And then when I announced everything, it's actually the day that I'm filming, I put everything up in like the Zelle, the Cash App, my PayPal, and just things too, like my YouTube channel, my Poshmark closet, my Amazon storefront, my brand, my books. Like I have a hard time accepting help without giving anything back. So I'm like, hey, if you buy something from my brand, like you get that product. You know what I mean? It's hard for me to just like take help. But then so many people started saying that they thought a GoFundMe would be a good idea because it's really easy to share, and sometimes the algorithm hits people that maybe just would like to contribute to a canine cancer cause versus someone who actually knows me on social media. So then I decided to put together the GoFundMe too. So I will put all those links in my description box. And again, if this is not something that you can help with, truly watching my YouTube videos, already so helpful. Letting the ads play, you know, tagging someone on my Instagram if you see a video that you think someone else would like, or my TikTok or anything like that. All of that is so helpful, and I'm just really grateful for this community because it is a community. So thank you. But also, how beautiful are these shades? I'm trying to decide. Like I love monochromatic looks. They're really my jam. I think I'm just gonna do some black liner. Not this one because it needs to be sharpened. Okay. Do I have a different liner nearby? Okay, I did sharpen it. I feel like I'm like not centered now because she's in the chair next to me, and now she's snoring. If you can hear that, she's snoring quite loudly, which is fine. I'll just let her be. But I just want to do more purple. Like I said, just monochromatic looks are just my vibe. But I think I want to play with the greens next in this palette. But also, Unearthly just did a collaboration with Heather Austin, one of my friends. I went on a cruise with her in January, which was so fun. Once I do have her palette, I will definitely be doing some looks with it, and I'm just so excited for her. So that is available now on the Unearthly Cosmetics website. So of course, I will have that in my description box as well. But I just love me a good purple look, and especially with green eyes, I think is so pretty. I also want to do just a little bit of Salty on the inner corner, just a little bit here. The brush I used, I don't think I said, for the shimmer shade, the jellyfish, was the BK Beauty 206. And then for my lash line, I used the BK Beauty 207, and now I'm using the BK Beauty 205. So I'm just gonna tap, oh yeah. Ooh, see, that's fun. Because it has that little hint of like a duochrome in here. Like it's like white, but like kind of green at the same time. Ooh, that's fun. I think that makes a fun inner corner, kind of jazz up the look a little bit. Another question is, I'm curious about anything you can share about the financial management on an event like this. Did you fundraise or simply invest your own money? So yes, we didn't do any fundraising. Again, everyone was going to be responsible initially is what we were going for. We were able to bring on some of the brands to cover the cost of the house. And like Cymbre and I we really enjoy being transparent. Sometimes with brand trips it's not the most transparent, and you don't really know, or you know, sometimes it's like our creators paid to be there or they paid to make content. There's a lot of times that we just don't know. No one really says anything, but Cymbre and I have been trying to be as transparent as we can with this, because we started to see the questions of like, our creators being paid to go there? And no, they weren't. They paid their own way. Like I said, they didn't have to pay for the house, some of the dinners, and then we had the one activity at the beach that was also covered through the money that we were able to raise. They were able to get products in the goodie bag. That is everything though. But then Cymbre and I ended up putting up our own money, and that was just, you know, a learning experience for us. We thought we would have enough with what we were able to bring in with brand sponsorships to cover some of the little, like we were like, oh, we'll have extra money for like Ubers. We did not. You know, we didn't realize, like, one of the big things we learned was having a shipping receiver, because some of the brands that were sending products sent quite a few products, and we were like, oh, even with us each bringing 2 suitcases, we're not going to have enough room for everything. So we had to find a shipping receiver, so we had to pay for that. You know, chipped in on the trip and put our own money towards it, and that's, you know, totally fine for us, because like I said, that's just a learning experience on our end, and now we know for next time approximately what we might need for those extra expenses, even like tipping money at like for the restaurants and things like that. All of that was just, again, a learning experience for us, and now we will know for the future, and we can kind of plan accordingly that way. For my mascara, I'm going to use this one from Ofra. They sent this along in the goodie bag, and this is their HD volumizing mascara. I remember I used to really enjoy this mascara. I think I've gone through like, I don't know, I don't know why my mind wants to say I've gone through like 3 of them, but I haven't used one in a while. I do actually have a dinner tonight that I'm going to. I'm excited to go, and I'm excited to have like fun makeup as well. This will be the second dinner I'm going to since everything happened. The first one was for my friend Risa does makeup. It was her birthday, and I really like didn't want to miss it. But we had a birthday dinner for her, and then we were going to another place to see like a live band, and I didn't make it to that. Like I just was able to make it for the dinner, and I was like, I'm just so anxious, and I really had a hard time like getting into my groove, and like I truly have like not been leaving my apartment. It's just, I'm having a, you know, obviously like I'm just like having a hard time like being social. So I just felt like I was, yeah, I'm socially awkward anyways, and I have social anxiety, but it was like so much worse, and I felt like I was just sitting there. So like, I was like, oh my gosh, Reese's friends have to think I'm like so weird. I know that they didn't, because I know them and they're all great, but that's my own perception of like what's going on, because I just had such a hard time. And the dinner got over, and I was like, I'm sorry, I can't go to the next part. Like I have to go home to be with my dog, but I'm gonna go to a dinner tonight, literally just dinner, and come home. And hopefully it'll be fun. I get to see some of my friends here and just enjoy a dinner. And I'm remembering why I liked this Ofra mascara so much, because it really like lifts the lashes, it lengthens them. Ooh, I don't know if you can see, this is, oh, why did I do that? Anyways, I'll fix that later, but this is only 1 coat. Do I even need to do, I'm gonna do 2 just for fun, but okay, I think the mascara is looking good. So for my lip combo, I'm going to do the BK Beauty Warm Spice lip liner. This has been mentioned in a favorites video, and I love the shade. And I am going to do my Queen gloss. I feel like it'll work with this eye look. This is my gloss that I did in collaboration with Ofra. It's named Queen after Aries, because I always call her the Queen. But the last question I see is also, what did you learn about event planning / managing through this experience? I definitely learned a lot. Like I said, it was a good learning experience for Cymbre and I. But I definitely think I learned or continue to understand the importance of like good communication, not only between Cymbre and I, like us and the brands, us and the creators, but also us and like the restaurants we were working with, and always making sure that we were staying up to date on, because we had like the number of guests coming changed a few different times, or we had to change the date, or we changed the menu. We're working with for the Airbnb was like a, I don't know if I want to say like a house management, but it wasn't just like Airbnb, like it was a different company, and like staying really up to date on communication with them, because we had some issues like the day of, like getting into the house and all of that was causing a lot of stuff. Like I'm still here in Las Vegas, and I'm emailing like, when can we get in? Like, you know, so communication was definitely something that was learned, and we really tried to put everything that we were able to get from the brands in terms of like the monetary sponsorships. Like, we tried to put everything that we, like, as much as we could towards the house, the meals, the activities. We were trying to make sure we had enough for like balloon decor and flowers, and making sure there was like waters and like snacks at the Airbnb. Like, we tried to really make sure all of that was going towards something, but then that meant that we weren't necessarily thinking about all of the expenses that we would occur while we were down there, and the admin expenses and the shipping and all of that. Again, that's just something that we know for next time, because again, like, Cymbre and I are not, we can't fund all of this ourselves type thing. So that was definitely a learning experience. But I think I also just learned how much fun I had doing this, and I also really enjoyed doing it with Cymbre, and I felt like we worked really well together, because that was a conversation we had afterwards too, was like, do we want to still work with one another? And I was so sure. Hold on, baby girl. Hold on. You want to get down? You want to get down? Okay, you get down. Good girl. So sure, especially after having to not be able to attend the trip 2 days before. Like, I thought Cymbre was gonna be like, you know, you were fun, but like, no. And so I'm just really happy that that we were just both happy with one another and working together, and we want to do it again. So we have 2 events that we're planning on for 2024. We're trying to fit another event into 2023, so stay tuned if we can pull that off. But again, this is something that we're doing in between our full-time jobs and doing in between our social lives as well. And it's definitely a lot of work. It's a lot of commitment, and we're really just trying to do the best that we can to hopefully continue to make this successful and keep being able to do more events and be able to include more and more people, and just continue to keep bringing the connections to the community of creators that we have here. So that's what we're trying to do, and that's a little bit of what I learned, and I really enjoyed the experience, and I'm excited to do it again for New Orleans in 2024. But after that is my finished makeup look right here, using the brands that did work with us on the first Creators and Friends trip and answering some of your questions. If you have any other questions that I missed, you can always leave them in the comments, and I'm trying to get over there as much as I can. But thank you everyone for your enthusiasm over Creators and Friends. I'm sure that made the creators that attended really happy as well, to see such a positive feedback from the community as a whole. And that just has us more excited, like I said, to create more and try to keep doing fun things and keep bringing these connections together. So thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed this one, make sure to give it a thumbs up. I hope you also consider subscribing before you go, and I'll see you in my next one.